Hello. Wow, look at all you people. Look at you all. I know you can't all look at you all, but look at all your names. There's Chuck, there's Matthew, there's Roger, there's John, there's Rob, there's David, there's Vern, there's Donna. Hi, everybody. I am really excited about today's show. You can tell, right? Should have done all that before we started. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. What do you say? If you're in the chat room, stay in the chat room. I actually have one of those, Matthew. It's the screen right here. But you're right. I need like a circle that I hold up in front of my face and say, I see Robbie and Davy and Johnny and Hank. They never said my name, by the way. Never. It's not the most uncommon name on the planet. Anyway, why don't we start a show? Searching for a Google alternative. Never, ever ask me again. It is Wednesday, the 28th of October, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. Hi, I'm Ken Ray, welcoming you into another edition of macOS Ken Live, the show where we dare to say, seriously, how many podcasts in one day do you need? Second half of today's show, we're going to talk about a group of advertisers who think asking once is plenty, and they're angry at Apple for saying, what's French for are you sure? We'll get to that in the second half of the show. First half of the show, though, there was an article in the Financial Times. Yeah, we're just diving straight in. I'm going to try to not rush as much as I did yesterday. I'm really excited about this story, though. And yeah, anyway, we'll see what happens. Financial Times ran a piece saying that Apple is working on an alternative to Google search. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting idea. According to the paper, Apple is stepping up efforts to develop its own search technology as U.S. antitrust authorities threaten multi-billion dollar payments that Google makes to secure prime placement of its engine on the iPhone. Already, there's so much about this story that's fascinating to me. It looks like, first of all, Apple's search engine is already running, although it's not really a search engine exactly. The Financial Times says when people type in requests for info from the home screen in iOS 14, Apple has started showing its own search results and linking directly to websites rather than going through a third party. In iOS 14's Today view, the report says the operating system shows an Apple-generated list of search suggestions rather than the Google results. These results include autocomplete style suggestions generated by Apple, showing that it is learning from its 1 billion users' common queries. Okay. See, I kind of just want to read the whole story to you and then go back point by point. It's the Financial Times. Why don't we start there? It's the Financial Times, so of course they're concentrating on the money part of it. As if Apple just started doing this yesterday. They keep saying that the DOJ is suing Google for anti-competitive behavior. At the center of that suit, or near the center of that suit, is the fact that Google pays somewhere between $9 billion and $12 billion a year to be the default search engine in Safari. Everybody says for iPhone, but it's for Safari, right? So the DOJ in the past few weeks said, right, we're suing. And I know we've known that that was coming for a while, but it's not like Apple can suddenly turn on a search engine from nothing. Of course, they haven't turned it on from nothing. 2.5 years ago, they got John Giannandrea. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. He was the head of Google Search. Supposedly, they said it was to increase their artificial intelligence capabilities and Siri virtual assistant. But, he also brought 8 years of experience running the world's most popular search engine, the Financial Times points out. I mean, sorry, it doesn't mean that Apple is creating an alternative to Google. I'm going to go ahead and keep reading, and then I should have just read the whole thing, right? Experts the Financial Times talked to, some of whom used to work for Google, say it wouldn't cost that much for Apple to do this, and that Apple has hired the talent to do it, and that Apple could do it because you can't just go and license somebody else's search technology if you're going to be an alternative to Google. I did not know until I was reading the Financial Times story here, and this could explain why DuckDuckGo. I love DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo is a privacy-focused search engine, and you can go there instead of Google, and you can type in your queries, and they're not being tracked, and that's great. They rely on Bing. It turns out they're licensing Bing's technology. Now, still, your information is staying between you and DuckDuckGo. It's not going anywhere. It's anonymized, all that stuff. It explains, though, why DuckDuckGo's results aren't necessarily as good as you might want DuckDuckGo's results to be. Apple can't just skin Bing. They can't just skin DuckDuckGo, right? They have to come up with something better if they're going to compete with Google, but not everybody thinks they're going to compete with Google. Dan Wong, associate professor of business at Columbia Business School, said it would be extremely difficult for Apple to ever catch up. Google's advantage comes from scale, he said, and the endless user feedback helps to tune results and identify areas of improvement. Google gets hundreds of millions of queries every minute from users all over the world. That's an enormous advantage when it comes to data. Surprising no one, Apple declined to comment for the Financial Times piece. All right. There's so much about this that's interesting and also, I think, kind of wrong in what the Financial Times is arguing. First of all, they're saying that Apple is doing this because they're worried about losing the $12 billion, $9 to $12 billion that Apple gets every year from Google for being the default search engine. I use Siri as often as I can. I know people who don't use Siri at all. Google's still spending $9 billion, even if Siri does get better. Google spending $9 billion for Apple would not be a waste of money because there are lots of people who are always going to Google it. They're not going to ask Siri for whatever reason. I know that when I'm out at the store, I don't ask Siri because I don't like to talk in public. I don't like to, spread my business around. If I'm worried about a search engine tracking me, I'm certainly going to worry about, saying out loud at the grocery store or well, that's the only place I go now, saying out loud at the grocery store what I'm searching for. Nobody else needs to know that. At that point, I will start typing stuff in. At that point, is it Google that I'm going to? I have set my default search engine to DuckDuckGo. And that is another thing that all of this seems to sort of ignore. I mean, the fact that we do have choices at this point, and I would imagine that somebody, at least at Apple, will go ahead and argue that. What Google is playing for is placement because people are lazy or people like Google or people don't realize they can change it, even though Apple has made it clear that, yes, you can. Google could still pay $9 billion a year and not lose their money, even if Apple gets better at what it's doing. Now, as far as Apple trying to build a search engine that's going to replace Google, I don't think so. I don't think Apple is trying to build the search engine that everybody is going to go to because I don't think Apple wants that kind of headache. I think all of the stuff about Siri being better and about Apple's AI being better, I think all of that is true. I think what Apple would like is instead of going to any search engine, you pick up your iPhone, you ask it a question, you get your answer, not kicking over to the here's what I found on the web. Not thinking, oh, I need to go to Google or I need to go to Alta Vista or I need to go, wherever it is, I need to go to look up stuff. I need to ask Jeeves, by golly. I think that's the part of this whole thing that actually excites me the most. The idea that my virtual assistant could become more of an assistant and less of a virtual thing, that it could become a source that I turn to ask questions and get answers. The concentration on the money, the concentration on the competition, it seems short-sighted to me. $9 billion is not nothing. What did we hear? That it could be, there was a story the other day that said what percentage of Apple's annual revenue that would be. I know it was bigger than I thought. Like maybe, I don't want to just throw out a term. It was bigger than I thought it would be. I'll put it that way. Apple could absorb the hit, though, especially if Apple can then say, I mean, start legitimately bragging about what Siri can do. And here's the thing, there was some other article that I read yesterday talking probably about smart speakers or something like that, that mentioned the fact that Siri is seen as lackluster compared to what Google can do and what Amazon can do. They have different business models, though. They have different ways that they go about doing that. Amazon is collecting that information. Google is collecting that information. Siri is trying to find you the information that you're asking for. Now, I'm not saying that Apple doesn't benefit from all that stuff, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the second half of the show. But I don't think they're, well, I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they are, and it's fine. Maybe I'm the frog in the pot of water. What I was going to say is I don't think Apple is selling that information. And of course, I don't think Apple is selling that information. I think Apple is more than happy to use the information that I ask about to maybe try to upsell me on something. Not as horrible as Amazon. Quick aside, I don't understand how Amazon's personal assistant can be that good. When I go to Amazon and I buy a pair of sneakers, you know what email I'm going to get for the next 6 to 8 weeks? Ads for sneakers. Dude, I just bought sneakers. I feel like you're doing your search thing wrong there. It's possible that Apple would benefit greatly from us only asking Siri instead of asking Google. At least the one thing that we would have is we would know that we're in a bottle episode at that point, that our information is staying just between us and Apple. Cool thing is Apple probably can't try to sell me a case of Brillo pads because I happened to ask it about Brillo pads. Probably won't try to sell me another pair of sneakers after I bought sneakers. It would be like if I went to iTunes and bought the movie The Living Daylights, and then Apple keeps asking me, hey, do you want to buy the movie The Living Daylights? Pretty sure I just did that. I can't explain why it is that this gets me so excited. It just gets me so excited. And I really don't think it has anything to do with Google. I think Google is going to stay Google. Maybe Google will not be allowed to pay Apple anymore for the privilege of being right there front and center. I think, honestly, they could make a case for why they're doing that. The DOJ might not care about that case and may go ahead and stop them anyway. Still, you'll be able to choose Google as your default search engine, or you'll be able to choose Bing, or you'll be able to choose DuckDuckGo. And all of that time, maybe Siri is getting better. Maybe it's getting smarter by itself, so I don't have to actually go to any of those places. But when I do, those places will still be there. If you can explain to me why I'm so excited about this story, because I'm incredibly excited about it, feel free to leave a comment on this video, or of course you can send me an email, info@macoscan.com, info@macoscan.com. Got company. Sorry about the noise. Coming up in just a second, we will talk about what a group of French advertisers are saying. You should never ask anybody ever. But first, normally this is the part of the show where I tell you about something else I'm doing. I'm not going to do that today. I had something wonderful happen earlier today. I was not in the best of moods, and somebody sent me a message saying, hey, good job on this thing. And it meant a lot to me. Honestly, turned my day around. So not unlike what I did a couple of weeks ago, I think, where I said, if there's somebody that you appreciate, reach out to them and let them know. I kind of want to wait until that's done, but it's never going to stop. Kind of like I said, as far as reaching out to somebody who, means something to you, do it again today if you would. Again, not me, please, because then it just sounds like I was asking you to tell me something nice. If there's somebody that you feel like you had to say something nice to, please do, because it won't take you much time. It may make you appreciate somebody else in your life, and certainly they'll appreciate, hearing that they don't stink. That's my thing. And I think that truck is gone and we can continue. So the question I had earlier, what is the French term for "are you sure"? And it really doesn't matter, because advertisers in France would rather we never know that ever. Remember that thing that was supposed to happen with iOS 14? There was a feature that Apple was going to put in that would mean anytime an app wanted to use an advertisement that was going to track you from one app to another, iOS 14 would have to come up and ask, are you cool with that? And you would have the option of saying, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. And advertisers, as soon as they heard that, said, well, this isn't going to work for us because, of course, people are going to say we're not cool with that. And it turns out a lot of modern advertising money, especially online or maybe even only online, is predicated on being able to see what you do next and what you do after that and what you do after that. And so they, both here and in Europe, said to Apple, can you hold off on this for a bit? Because we got to figure out something else to do. And Apple said, yeah, all right. We were supposed to start this in September, but tell you what, early part of 2021, we'll give you a few more months to figure out, your stuff, what you want to do. And now a piece from Apple Insider says a collection of advertisers and publishers in France have filed a complaint with the country's competition authority, claiming that iOS 14's blocking of automatic ad tracking will severely affect revenue. Well, yeah, of course it will, because it's going to make it a bit more difficult to do. Now, here's the thing. The group argues that iOS users in France have already been asked whether they're cool with being tracked. This is part of the GDPR. The companies in the French consortium have previously pointed out that because of European regulations over GDPR data protection, iOS 14 users are effectively going to be asked twice every time. Hence my asking, how do you say, are you sure? I don't think you should be overly solicitous. I think twice is fine. I think 5 times might be a little much. But, especially if you answered the question like a year ago or whenever GDPR came into effect, if you're saying, well, no, we're already covered and you never have to ask again. The advertisers are also upset that Apple has and will continue to have the information from which users might opt out of giving to the advertisers. The piece has the madmen arguing that point. Damien Jardin, the competition competition lawyer who represents the coalition, is quoted as saying, at the highest level, this is a novel case, a truly important case, because it deals with the use of privacy as a sort of fig leaf for anti-competitive conduct. We think that this is the sort of thing that will arise increasingly in the future. Kind of goes back to what I was saying in the first half. If I'm constantly asking Siri something, Siri, I assume, and this is the big difference, probably. Siri is anonymizing, depersonalizing, whatever you want to say. Siri is basically, if I'm asking Siri questions and Siri's like, I think that guy over there asked that, Siri won't know who that guy over there is. They're going to take all of this information. They're going to anonymize it. They're going to come up with common questions that people are asking, and they're going to come up with common results that people seem to glom to. That, I assume, is the same kind of thing that Apple would be doing here. This guy seems to be arguing that Apple is just using that, and really what they're going to do is they're going to take this information and use it for themselves. I don't think anybody's arguing that an app should not be allowed to use information for itself. If I go to ABC app, and ABC app, if we do an exchange where I get information from it, it finds out something about me, I think we're cool with that. If I then go to EFG app, what I've said is, no, what I did with ABC app is just between me and ABC. EFG does not get that information. I'm fine doing that exchange with them as well. I think it's a false equivalency that this guy is arguing, because he's saying, well, Apple's going to have that information. Well, yes, Apple is going to have that information. Just like if I go to your app is going to have that information. You don't get to sell it on to somebody else. You don't get to build something about me based on where I went when I left your store. Apple did respond to this one, by the way, but they responded, the way they always respond. And it's not a bad way to respond. I don't mean to poo-poo it. Privacy is a fundamental right, said an Apple spokesperson. The user's data belongs to them, and they should get to decide whether to share their data and with whom. Prompting my question, are you sure? I still blew through all of that. I still just I went running. It was like I was being chased by wolves for this episode. I will try to I'll try to slow down and enunciate. And I'll also try to keep the trucks off my yard. next time we do this show. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any feedback you would like to leave, there are a few ways that you can do that. You can, of course, show up here and talk to me after the show, because every Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, a growing group of people gets together and, says stuff while I'm saying stuff, and then I go back after and I read what they said, and we all, chat. So that's a great way. Be here live. That'd be fantastic. If you can't be here live, and I understand some days I'm not here live. If you can't be here live, if you're watching this video and you want to leave a comment, that'd be fantastic. I do read the comments, and sometimes I even respond to them, either back in the comments or on a following show. And of course, if you have a longer thought you would like to share, I would love to read that. info@macosken.com is the best way to share that. info@macosken.com. Got In a Few Minutes coming up tomorrow morning. Got Mac OS Ken coming up tomorrow morning. Got the checklist coming up tomorrow morning. And of course, tomorrow afternoon, we will meet here and do this again. And I will talk to you soon. Hi, everybody. I see people. Barely, though, because I don't have my glasses on. Right. I'm going way back up to the top and seeing who said what when. Siri is maddening with its inconsistencies, says Rob, especially on HomePod. It always becomes the device with priority, yet it's always the slowest to perform the task. Yeah, it's getting better, though. Don't you think, Rob? I mean, I'm not saying so it's fine now, but it is getting better, I think. Huh, that's interesting. You make a good point. Rob says the quality of search results is irrelevant when people stop talking to Siri because they're so frustrated with its inconsistency and slow performance. Yeah, you're not wrong. Is Mozilla still a foundation? Did I miss some stuff? Hello, Amy. Sorry, I just see you saying hey there, so there we go. So what if Apple just set a price to one of the listed search engines and made the selection as part of the setup? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, Chuck. I also seem to have lost a ton of comments here. Or maybe I didn't. Did I miss the secret to the universe discussed earlier? Yes, John. Yes, I did. And now it will suffer forever. All right. There's a live chat, top chat. Somebody said, I'm not seeing that. I believe you, but I'm not saying it. Asking. See, I don't like that idea, Chuck, honestly. I think probably what's going to end up happening, and I could be wrong, I think probably what's going to end up happening if Apple ends up having to do anything is there'll just be a list of 4 or 5 search engines that nobody will have to pay to be on. It'll just be offered as a thing, because I think paying to be on it is where Apple is getting in trouble now. The fact that Google can or will pay between $9 billion and $12 billion a year to be at the top of that list. Bing could afford to do that. I don't think they will. And of course, what do you call it? DuckDuckGo can't even begin to afford to do that. I don't know what Dogpile is. Is that like Hotbot? Remember that? This is going to sound crazy. I decided to try to switch to Bing for a month. It isn't bad, so says Nabil. Hey, Nabil. Good to see you. Yeah, I I went to DuckDuckGo for the privacy thing. Occasionally, though, you just can't find exactly what you're looking for. I mean, there is something to the billions of people a minute asking Google stuff. I mean, it really is smarter. It really is more succinct, I would say. Not better, but you have to search more carefully with DuckDuckGo or more intentionally in a way. Overall, DuckDuckGo is mine as well, Amy. DuckDuckGo does use Bing in the background, right, but it anonymizes so you're not being tracked. That's I don't know if you missed that part or if I just, like, blew past it because I know I went fast today. Yeah, with the tracking stuff turned off, exactly. You guys are great. I really appreciate you being here. Um, right. I'm gonna go though, because I think I might need to go someplace. I'm not sure. And if I don't need to go someplace, I need to work on shows. I've heard the whole anonymizing Google thing, but I can't remember how you do it. Oh, stop it, John. Thank you. I meant to say thank you, John, is what I meant to say. Roger says DuckDuckGo is his default as well. Google seems to push promoted content above what I'm actually searching for. Well, yeah, that's the money, right? I mean, they're taking those payments. I know DuckDuckGo actually has sponsored search results as well. They don't seem as egregious. They don't seem as plentiful. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go write stuff or leave the house or something. I have no idea what's happening, but I do know I'm saying goodbye, so I can turn this show around into an audio podcast for the people who weren't here live. Take care, everybody. Nabil, thank you. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.